Here is why, very vividly and very persuasively, I'm going to articulate why I do not support red flag laws. Here's the thing: the red flag laws sound good when people who don't understand the history of this country and don't understand the Second Amendment, don't understand the First Amendment, and why the Second Amendment is so important to protect the First Amendment. If you don't understand these things, red flag laws make perfect sense to you. But in reality, red flag laws are primed to be abused. I do not support not one iota of a red flag law as it relates to federal legislation. State level legislation, I still don't support it, but I believe that each state, based on the people that live in the state, can make a decision of whether or not they want to implement something like that. This is not something that the federal government should be involved in, period. One of the main reasons, and if I can do the primary, this could be the only reasons, but I have a few more. The main reason why is because the manipulation of people in power. We have already seen the propensity of people in this country to designate conversations and discussions that they do not like and people's belief systems that they do not like and deem that to be a danger to the public. The way that they have treated the president of the United States, and without justification, they've called him a racist. They labeled him as a white supremacist. They've said that the words that he's used are dangerous to the country and threatening. I think that all of those are clear signs that if certain people get into power, they're going to use legislation to take away your amendment rights because they disagree with you. And when you look at it for what it is, this can really be a spiral downhill effect as it relates to conservatives in America. Conservatives will never target a political opponent in that manner and fashion. We have seen the liberals do it time and time and time again. The president just tweeted today and made a pretty funny statement on his Twitter, and you can go back and look at it, is he made a statement about Chris Cuomo and his outrageous outburst. I don't know if you've seen that. I may make a video about it. He lost his mind because a guy called him Fredo. He actually lost his mind. I think he lost his mind. He threatened to throw the guy down the stairs and all this foolery over a phrase that a guy said to him. Then he tried to equate that to the N-word, which is absolutely unequivocally ridiculous. But that's for another conversation. But what the president said is, look at how deranged he is. Would he be flagged? Would he be red flagged? And I think the president was making a point of how inconsistent and dangerous it could be, because you can be labeled and before you know it, all your rights are taken away. A group of people that support the president has already been labeled racist and a danger to this country. They will take your rights away. And so whether you believe it or not, it's something that we should all be concerned about. Giving the government too much power is negating our constitutional rights and what the founding fathers believed that we should have in this country, and the reason why we flourish as a country and as a free nation. But I'll say this to articulate a little bit of how this process works when it comes to red flag laws and why it should be concerning and how it actually operates in conjunction with what people try to tell you. First and foremost, there's a stark difference between going through a process and having due process and getting your guns taken away because of legislation that have been passed and you have been deemed either a danger to yourself or others, or you've been considered guilty or convicted of a felony. The difference with the red flag laws is that this is preliminary. This is like a restraining order. This is a temporary action that can be taken based on assumptions or information from an external person. So a person can come up and say, well, this person tried to kill himself, or whatever they can say about you. You could have a moment of weakness in a specific period of time that you can overcome yourself, but a person can report that on you. Somebody can deem that your character is a danger to yourself and others, and they can send it to a judge that can make a temporary order to take your firearms. And we've seen this with restraining orders. It is absolutely manipulative. And I'm going to go into a little more detail about the law enforcement aspect. Similar to a restraining order, if you have somebody that make a complaint, all the burden or the necessity that it requires is that a medical professional, in the case of the red flag laws, or in the case of a person who's getting a restraining order for domestic violence, all it takes for a judge to be either biasly or favoring the person who's petitioning for the restraining order or the red flag law, for them to just arbitrarily say, this is what my decision is, and the person on the other end will be dramatically affected until they can appeal it. So, for instance, you can have a restraining order against a person. A girlfriend can say, oh, he beat me and he's been abusing the kids, and all they have to do is get one of their friends to text message and say, yeah, I've been a part of that, he's a dangerous person, and let you get into an argument with them where there's any level of yelling between you and the other person. They can submit a restraining order, and if a judge, and listen, I was a police officer, I've seen judges give people restraining orders for nothing. I'm talking about restraining orders that cause the father to have to move out of the home, and they get their guns taken away now for absolutely nothing. And all it takes is for a judge to be sympathetic, or a medical professional to be sympathetic to the argument of that person. For instance, if a liberal judge wants to hear out that a person is a right winger, a white supremacist, and that owns a lot of guns, and get into one argument with somebody and they feel like they're a danger to others, that judge can have sympathy and order that person be petitioned. And when you are petitioned to see a medical professional, law enforcement can take you against your will. And then you want to add in that law enforcement can take that person's firearms, and you're going to be subject to that finding until you're able to appeal, which is not going to be the next day. And I'm telling you, I can see it going down a slippery slope. We've already seen it with restraining orders, and I'm not saying that there's not a legitimate example. For example, we had a guy who was ex-military. He was having PTSD real bad. He was low crawling in his backyard with an AR-15 because he thought he was at war. He was petitioned. Clear signs of him not being mentally stable. He was petitioned by a judge, and law enforcement took his firearms. Now, in that case, it seems to be reasonable in that one individual scenario. But the problem, when you give people an inch, they take a mile, man. And I can just already see the writing on the wall that after the president is no longer the president, if you find yourself being a pro-American and you still support President Trump and you still wear his apparel, I can see them categorizing you as a threat and a danger to society. I can tell you the backlash that I get on social media just because I have an opinion about the LGBTQ community. I'm considered homophobic, that I hate gay people, and all kind of stuff that some people decide to say just because I have an altering opinion. It's an opinion. Not one time I'm going to spend an iota of my energy protesting anybody doing anything in this country, unless you're doing something illegal. But they like to deem you a certain way if they disagree, or if you come up with a point they cannot counter. The same thing with Islam. I oppose Islam unanimously, based on the truths of the Bible. I'm not going to spend not 1 inch, an ounce of my energy trying to protest anybody that believe in Islam. But my opinions about the Islamic religion is I think that it's obviously has shown signs to be radicalized and dangerous across the world. And also I disagree with it because it's in complete contradiction of what Jesus said. So regardless of that, people try to paint you because they are losing politically, or they're losing an argument. The worst person to be in the United States of America at this point is a white supremacist and a racist. And you see how easily they can label you those terms. Those terms, back when they actually meant something, were very dangerous and very hurtful to people in this country. But nowadays, they call anybody that they disagree with a racist. So red flag laws, I do not support them. I understand the spirit behind it, but I think that we need to look at reality and not necessarily the good conscience of some people that want to implement it today. President Trump wanting to implement the red flag laws today, yeah, it could possibly make sense because he's a conservative. It makes sense because some conservative politicians and Republican politicians back that amount of legislation. There's political pressure and social pressure to make something happen. I can see in good faith why some of these people want to do something, but I'm telling you right now, it's not 100% effective, and in the hands of the wrong government or governmental structure and power, that's going to be the lead to us losing our Second Amendment rights, period. So let me know, is B. Tatum tripping? Am I off the mark, or am I on to something? Let me know in the comment section. I'll have some more information or whatever, how you can support the channel, whatever, all that will be in the description section. All you got to do is look at both. Thank you guys for supporting the channel. Oh, make sure you visit my store at The Officer Tatum Store. The Officer Tatum Store, where you get a whole bunch of cool merch. I'll see you guys on the next one. I love you. Let me know what you think.